Oh, Phil, please, not a mouthful of Boston bun.
No, thankfully, I've just finished the coffee scroll, Bruce.
Oh, please.
Just in time.
Just before you turn the mic on.
Yeah, and some people who perform can't drink or eat before they go on.
That's right.
John Blackman can't drink a Coke or anything. Tells me he makes his voice very thick.
Oh, what a pity.
Milk can do the same thing.
Oh.
What do you do? Do you do vocal exercises before you go on air?
Yes, I do. I gargle quite a lot, and I do the scales, MNOPQRSTUV, and I have enough depth in the voice then to perform.
It's paid off, hasn't it? I'd like to hear from people today at 11 o'clock who perhaps... You want to raise something?
Good, yeah.
No, well, we're talking about what used to be 2-minute silence.
That's right.
It's now 1 minute. I mean, everything's been sanitised.
It was all very structured at school, wasn't it? You'd stand by your desk, and in the desk, standing up there. Oh, you started that blasted Hoover.
That's right.
Every opening remark, it's 10 o'clock. You'd get a bit of a... About 8 o'clock at night, it'd be all right.
Would Neil Mitchell put up with this, or Tom Elliott?
Absolutely not.
Even Dennis Walter would think twice about it.
But, yes, there was some structure at school, standing by the classroom.
And with the flag and so on. But, you know, a bit sad that 2 minutes has become 1 minute. But I'd love to hear from people today who were perhaps observing the 1 minute silence in unusual situations.
Yes, good thought.
Perhaps you're on a tram or...
Well, I'd just broken an egg into a frying pan when 3AW had the 1 minute silence, so I turned everything off and stood there by the oven.
I hope you
like
did.
An idiot.
And waited for the last post as well. But perhaps you were caught short today. Perhaps you forgot about it altogether. Perhaps somebody reminded you.
Hang on, what if you're in public transport? You couldn't observe it, could you, if you're on a tram or a train?
I don't think they'd stop the trams, trains or buses, would they, at 11 o'clock?
Well, they did at Hurst Bridge. Right. Did you read about that?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, that's outrageous.
Absolutely.
So maybe you'll have a story to tell us about where you were at 11 o'clock this morning.
If you were hoovering the place, would you have stopped for 2 minutes like an Alec out there?
Mm-hmm. Also, here's something close to home for you. This will be very appealing to you. It'll have nostalgic value for you. Melbourne's oldest theatre. Guess what it is?
Oh, good question.
I know.
By golly, that's a good question. Now, we're talking about Melbourne City.
Yes, and we're talking about live theatre originally.
So it's not film theatre.
No, this goes way back before movies were invented.
Golly, well, I'm going to say Her Majesty's, His Majesty's Comedy, Athenaeum.
Bang. The Athenaeum Theatre, Melbourne's oldest surviving theatre, will be 175 years old tomorrow.
Really?
And it has a place in your heart because you and your father went there a lot.
Oh, well, I think everybody's been there.
No, but wasn't the Dickens Club there?
Oh, yes, he was a member of the Dickens Society. We used to meet he used to meet there on the first floor of the library.
Yes, of course.
But I don't know whether that's still going.
I don't know, but we might hear from people. And what shows have you seen of the Athenaeum through the years?
Topic. What are the clubs? What are the funny little societies who meet regularly and who study books of perhaps a Shakespeare club?
Yes.
Dickens.
They do exist, I'm sure they do. Might even be a Mark Twain Society in Melbourne.
And well, I'm sure there must be. So that's a good thought. The Athenaeum Theatre. Look, I will jam that. The Athenaeum Theatre, which could do with a bit of a paint, couldn't it, Phil?
Yes, I mostly end up sitting behind a pillow when I'm there. But
that's your problem. It's nothing to do with the Athenaeum.
Wonderful live shows there over the years, as you know, and movies too, of course. Yeah, British movies mainly.
Yes, there were British movies.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, it was a home of London films and J. Arthur Rank and so on for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And the very first time I saw a jukebox, there was a milk bar downstairs called Blick's, and that was about 1947, the first time I ever saw a jukebox in action.
All right, so did you observe the 1 minute silence today? Where were you? Were you on a building site? Were you at work? An unusual location? And you were quite moved by the way that everybody stopped and observed that silence. Were you in a shopping centre or at school? Were you a teacher? And did the kids all observe it?
Or did you bring someone to task? My friend Jill was working on the switchboard at 11 o'clock when somebody interrupted her and she said, shh, it's 11 o'clock on the 11th day. And of course they abruptly realised their errors. And also, you know,
somebody from the RSL.
what are your memories of going to the Athenaeum over 175 years? Gosh,
All right, don't worry.
Isn't he thorough though? I mean, he's been going over that same piece of carpet for 10 minutes.
Yeah, he knows he's on air. He's a show-off.
96900 693.
Good.
Got the TV ratings, Bruce?
13 past 9, 3AW, 9, 6.
Oh, sorry, just tell you, 13 past 10. You're living in the past.
What did I say?
And 9, you think it's
Did
the
I?
old days, yes. You're only on for 2 hours,
I'm
buddy.
still on that 1 minute silence, you see. 96900 693, that's the telephone number. We'd love to hear from you tonight. We've got a lot of prizes, Phil.
Yes, we have, and I'd like to go through the ratings with you.
Well, let's have a look at them. Nine's News scooped the pool last night, both the first and second half hours. They did very well.
Yes.
Channel 9 there. The Big Bang Theory, number 3, I don't know why. The Block, number 4, Seven's News came in next. Then A Current Affair, Big Bang Theory, number 2, ABC News, and number 10 was The X Factor. All very predictable, same as each night of the week, isn't it?
Isn't it peaceful without that vacuum cleaner? Couldn't he just do dusting or something after 10?
I don't think he needs to. There's not enough. People are not dropping things into the pile all day here, surely.
No, I think not. I think he was just out to make a good impression.
Do you think so? Well, maybe that's the case.
Oh, look, the board's lighting up.
Oh, look at that. 14 past 10.
Peter Hitchener's on his way. We'll be here shortly.
Which direction is he taking?
I know, probably coming through...
Is he going through Flemington Road?
Probably coming through Southern Cross Station.
Okay, we're going to Jeanette at Frankston. Thanks for ringing, Jeanette.
Oh, good evening. How are you going?
Yes, good. First call of the night.
Thank you. Look, I'm very strong on Remembrance Day. My father fought in the Second World War in the Navy. But I work for a major shopping centre in Frankston. And it was so moving to see at 11 a.m. this morning, the entire shopping centre just came to a standstill. Including centre management, and it was so moving to see that everybody stood for that minute's silence, and that to me was very, very moving.
Was that good?
It was. We have the automated music system, as you do through shopping centres, and then they do the last post and the minute's silence, etc. But a lot of people, when they're shopping, they forget the time. They just want to get on with the shopping. But I jumped onto the CCTV and I had a bit of a peek, and everybody was just standing and remembering those who fought for us. And it was very moving to me.
Yeah, which shopping centre was it?
Bayside.
I think that's so good, because there was a time when people just didn't allow that time, did they?
It's true.
That's right, and to me that was very moving. And like I said, people go about their business and they forget about the time, and to me that was really moving, and I was so happy that people did stand for that minute's silence.
Yes.
Oh, that's very, very good.
Very reassuring. Thanks, Jeanette.
No, my pleasure.
Thank you so much for calling in, Jeanette. Thank you.
Hats off to Bayside Shopping Centre, Frankston.
And I'm sure all the other shopping centres who will hear tonight that stopped and paid due solemnity.
Hopefully they did.
It is 20 past 10, 3AW. Pounding the bridge between 3AW and Channel 9, Peter Hitchener in Lycra, which is the, well, it's a see-through Lycra, isn't it, Phil?
Is it?
Yeah,
Look out.
very appropriate this weather,
Well,
I think.
what I actually meant was that it was luminous.
That's even worse. Oh, it's good to see you both.
Oh, Pete.
Today I was hoping to make it home in time, but 11 o'clock or just before 11 came, so I just stopped the car where I was and just stopped and thought about relatives who have passed away, who went to war, and those, you know, who we didn't know, those who served, those who I had a friend who was called up in the conscription years and went to Vietnam and came back, but always had struggles ever since, just to deal with the after effects of it. So there was a lot going on today in my mind, and I thought it was just so lovely that I just think it's wonderful that kids are paying tribute to our servicemen and women from years gone by.
I love to see the little ones, you know, at various gatherings around Melbourne, particularly at the Shrine.
At the Shrine.
All dressed in the small outfits.
Oh, there was a dear little kid tonight in the news wearing, I think, his grandfather's or great-grandfather's actual outfit.
Yeah.
And it was just very moving. It just, you get a lump in your throat thinking about those things and how much it means. And we had a widow of a World War I veteran. He'd passed away, of course, but his widow said he'd have been so touched and so moved to know that all these years later, people are still, and I think more and more, paying tribute to them. So it was very moving, very nice.
I think that was on your news tonight about a special luncheon.
Yes, that was the one. Yes,
the widows
that was it.
And those
it was lovely. Oh, the dear things.
So it's nice these young people are carrying the torch and will continue to do so.
That's exactly right. Lovely.
For generations to come.
I see that. Have you noticed there's a bit of a Boston bun over there? I think I nearly heard that being consumed at the top of the show.
He brings it in and gnaws on it and asks me if I'd like half of it. And I look at it and I think, no.
I'm pretty right. Thanks.
Speaking of food, a delightful story at the end of the news tonight. Granny who was skydiving, losing her false teeth.
Oh, wasn't that awful? Actually, that is horrible because what happened was she was quite elderly.
In tandem with
an instructor, and he's on top and she's down and she's got this big happy smile on her face, as you do, smiling so happily that the teeth got a bit aeronautical and took off.
Oh no!
And blonked the instructor on the head as they went past.
So they would have gone up as she went down. Was that the gravity?
Yes, and I think they're probably on their way down and probably actually bit somebody on the head when they landed.
Probably would have.
Oh dear, it was awful actually.
But don't you hear a lot of false teeth being lost at sea, for example?
Yes.
Or turning up in a pie or something.
Yes.
Oh, no, I think I'd rather not.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, thanks.
I know a lady who was looking for her false teeth, which she'd put in a glass of water beside her bed, only to find her dog consuming them and chewing them. Oh, it happens. Yeah.
And I have heard.
Who was that?
I won't name her because she doesn't want you to know she has falsies.
So oh, good. Well,
I think Boos is being a bit sceptical here. That's the journalist in you.
Yes, I'm fossicking for a story here.
It's someone you know.
It does sound quite funny, I must say, and I have heard of people who have, they've had a bit of a heavy night, got a bit thirsty during the night, and they had a sip of the water in which some teeth were reclining.
With the Steradent.
And swallowed.
I don't know if you can swallow Steradent or not.
Oh, dear.
We should get some stories from our listeners.
I bet you will.
What's happened to your false teeth over the years?
You will. And isn't that funny? Steradent, there's a name I haven't heard in 100 years. It's like Ipana. Remember? Oh, Ipana used to be quite a toothpaste.
But they were brand names that sort of stayed with you. It wasn't like a brand name.
No, that's right.
I'll go down and get some Ipana.
Yes, that's right.
Clean.
That's right. Yes, you wouldn't sort of call it toothpaste. You wouldn't call it what it actually is. It was the brand name. It's like Biro. People talk about Biros, and well, really, they haven't been Biros for a million years.
Well,
but that
there was
doesn't
a product like Solvol, for example. The first of the soaps that came along.
Yes, wash your hands, Jeffrey. In the Solvol, Jeffrey.
In Solvol, Jeffrey.
That must be a dream come true for marketers when their product is so well recognised. Oh, I'm reaching for a Kleenex. Not a tissue. I want the Kleenex.
Oh, and you remember, of course, Graham Kennedy doing the
Alka-Seltzer?
No. Oh, yes, Alka-Seltzer, but also the Kleenex. The wet strength of Kleenex, and the idea. He had the egg, which of course, with the wet Kleenex, the egg would splush straight through it.
That's right.
Yeah, but of course, that was the whole point with Graham's ads. A lot of them, the whole idea was to get people laughing.
Yes. But there was Bacteria Bill. Remember that? Don't forget the Iceman. Get a block of ice and combat Bacteria Bill.
What about MENTHOID? Yes.
And Bex, BEX, Bex.
Yes, now that's the thing. Bex and Vincent's APC. I assume you can't actually get them anymore.
I think Bex is still on the market.
I don't think I've seen a Bex box for 20 years.
I haven't seen them for 20 years.
I think you're living a dream.
Ask Gerald Quigley. He'll tell you. He'll know.
Oh, Gerald Quigley would know. Yes, but these things. I'm not even sure that some of the ingredients are strictly legal these days.
I wonder too.
They might make you glow in the dark or make your hair curl spontaneously.
olive oil. We'd have cascara. We would have Saunders
Yes.
malt extract.
Yes.
Oh, tins
will you
of
forget? And of course, from about the same era, will you ever forget the merry pop, 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 pop of the ginger beer that was being bottled at home?
yes.
I think they used to have a bit of eggshells and things in them to make them work, and occasionally they worked a little too well, and off went the lids.
But you'd stay with an uncle. Yeah, and you're staying in the sleep out. You're about 5.
Yes, in the sleep out. Who has them
Who
anymore?
had louvers. They had
Yes,
louvers.
that's right.
And you'd hear the pop, pop, pop. And this man had been drinking. He's a bit of an alky.
I'll have another little one while I'm
I'm going to
here.
have another one. And you'd hear the popping. And you'd think that's part of his regime. Perhaps that's him popping.
Maybe it is, maybe. Maybe it's one of those little conditions that he should talk to someone about.
Exactly.
And what about some of the false claims? There was a brand of cigarette that claimed you have nothing to lose but your smoker's
That's
cough.
right.
Oh, yes,
That
that's
was
right.
a brand of cigarette.
That's exactly right.
You have nothing to lose but your smoker's cough.
Oh, yes.
Goodness me, the things that they could get away with in those days. Shocking. Shocking.
You couldn't do it today.
No, it wouldn't be allowed.
No, not at all.
False advertising.
But those were the happy, simpler days. There was a fellow whose routine on television, and this is only probably in the 80s, I suppose, was he'd have a cigarette in his hand and I don't have to be here, you know. Do you remember
Yes,
that?
I
He was
do
a comic,
remember
and he
that.
was very good. I can't remember what his name was. but
Yes.
somebody will be able to tell us. Very entertaining.
Kenny says it was the Great Burke.
That's right, the Great Burke. That's right.
What was his name? Was he known as the
No,
Great
now,
Burke?
Peter and I have had this discussion. I remember this comedian as clear as all get out, and it's exactly as Peter says. He just didn't want to be there, and that was all part of the act.
Yes.
You know, he was doing his routine, but it was the last thing he was interested in, and we laughed talking about it. And do you think we can find any information about him or any clips anywhere on the
There's
internet?
nothing.
No.
Nothing.
What a wonderful routine to
Yes.
say, I don't want to be here.
I don't have to
I've
be
got a
here,
bag.
no.
I'm coughing my heart out.
Yeah,
I don't
isn't that
want to be.
wonderful? But it's not on YouTube. You can't find him anywhere.
But what a
It's
wonderful
hilarious.
routine.
Wasn't it just?
I would come home.
I can't remember seeing him, but I think that's
Yes.
fabulous.
Yes.
I'd come home from school and have lunch with Mum, and she'd have the Mike Walsh show on.
Yes,
and he
that's
would
right.
be on the Mike Walsh show regularly.
Yes.
He was hysterical.
I
hilarious.
love that. I would love it.
It was wonderful.
And of course, you boys would have worked with Mike Walsh over the years
Yes.
at Channel 9
Yes.
in
Oh,
Melbourne.
absolutely. Many times.
I met him later on during his time on the midday show. I didn't know him when he was doing Brekkie and all those other shows that he did at
Yes.
9 in earlier days. But he's an amazing entrepreneur and an amazing energy to him. you
Oh,
know.
very much so.
You know, and now a theatre proprietor and apparently doing very well
Very,
still.
very tunnel vision, wasn't he, Mike Walsh? It was
Yes.
always not primarily business, but that's how he attacked everything.
Always willing to take risks, which
Yes.
paid off.
Well, absolutely.
He and I went to school together. We've known each other since we were 5.
Have I imagined it? Somebody said that he was also a pharmacist,
Yeah, he started pharmacy.
But didn't finish?
Didn't finish and got a job at 3SR Shepparton. That was his
Heavens.
first break in
Good heavens.
showbiz.
And very successful. Gosh, the midday show. Remember when they used to spend money on big shows at lunchtime, and the budget for that show must have been enormous because Jeff Harvey and the band played the music, and they had entertainers and singers and jugglers and balancing acts and all sorts of things, and interviews with Hollywood stars. My
It was
gosh.
the sort of thing you'd never see it finishing. That's
No.
going to be locked in forever.
No, that's exactly right. And we keep hearing about how our life is changing and the things that happen now that would never have happened. I mentioned one during the week. The top 2 selling books on the Age Good Books Guide are 2 colouring books for stressed adults. Can you believe it?
That's right.
That's correct. That's correct. And Juddy's inspirational book about his life in footy, number 3.
Goodness me.
Colouring books for adults. The world has changed.
So what does that mean? We're all...
Stress?
Stress heads.
Are we all going through a second child?
I think we all should say, I don't have to be here, you know.
No, I think we should, like the great Burke,
Yeah, exactly.
who I think works at our newsroom.
Good night.
Good night. I went to see the Cope. 27 to 11 on Remembrance Day, and the closing piece tonight is very applicable. It's the history, if you like, of the last post, how that came about.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
Quite a revealing story and
Yes.
beautifully written.
All right, that's in about an hour and a quarter.
So that's something special just to remember in the final minutes of this day.
Worth waiting up for.
Okay, we'll go to Barry at Heathmont now, Phil.
Hello, Barry.
gentlemen, before I get on to my main subject, I'm lying down exhausted chasing my dog round the house.
Yeah, and what's the story there?
Oh, we've got a Cocker Spaniel, Phil. You'd appreciate how puppies get in the mischief. This dog, she's a beautiful dog, but you've got to lock the house up. She steals everything, tissues, bottles of tablets, you name it.
Of course.
She's just been crazy as anything tonight.
Now, I have, you don't know, I have to keep Oro, my little golden retriever, out of the front garden because I have a very tame possum, a little ringtail, that spends all day in the garden just wandering around. So I have to keep my boy away from the possum in case he devours it.
Yeah, well, anyway, the main subject, Remembrance Day, a couple of things. It's always something very special to me because my father-in-law, who passed away a few years ago, was in the Second World War, and I had a grandfather and a great-uncle in the Great War.
Oh, yes,
right.
that would mean so much to you.
Yeah, but anyway, the interesting thing on Remembrance Day, we're up at our local shopping centre today, and at 11 o'clock there's myself, my wife and my mother-in-law in the car. We sat there silently for the minute, but people were walking up and down taking no notice.
Yes.
But two interesting things. One, I'm a Metro Trains driver, and one of my fellow drivers, if he's working on Remembrance Day, at 11 o'clock he'll bring his train to a complete stand for a minute.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he remember. Then one other interesting thing I remember, a few years ago I was at work on Remembrance Day, and I happened to wander out the front of Flinders Street Station at 11 o'clock, and I think he was a sergeant, a police sergeant anyway. He directed all the traffic to stop and told all the pedestrians to stay on the road, not to cross during the minute's silence. And someone foolishly tried to cross, and the sergeant has absolutely screamed at this bloke and told him in no uncertain terms to go back to the pavement and stay there and wait for the minute's silence to finish.
Oh, good on him.
Yeah, so he's Remembrance Day is special to so many people because all those brave men fought for us and gave us the freedoms that we enjoy today.
No doubt about that. Thanks for your story, Barry.
No worries, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Barry. Thank you for calling. Joy, good evening.
Good evening, Bruce. Bruce, is Peter Hitchener married?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, he'd be a good catch for somebody.
He certainly would.
He'd be a good catch for someone, yeah. Bruce, I'm at a village, and usually we used to have it around the flag.
Yes.
And have the hour, we'd stop and today we had us in the rec room, and there was about 7 people there, and we sang we didn't sing, we stood to Imagine There's No Heaven.
Oh.
Isn't that unusual?
Is that the John Lennon song, Phil?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Oh,
Marvellous,
that would have been inspiring for you.
Different, yeah, different. About 7 people turned up, so at least, a few people
Well,
turned up.
that's all right. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah. Enjoy yourself, Bruce.
Okay, darling. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Goodbye, Joy. What do you think about the M-rated content from 7:30, Phil?
Yes, apparently they're lifting advertising bans in children's time slots.
And also content, which worries me a little. References to sexual activity, coarse language can be aired in peak family time from 7:30 as opposed to 9 o'clock.
Pity help us.
So bringing it earlier in on the night, which I can't see the reasoning behind it.
No.
Do you see anything that's going to be an advantage?
No, I think the networks are being greedy. I think they're chasing that $1 too with more advertising.
Yeah, I think you are right. Perhaps with more adult advertising for an earlier time.
Yeah, it's
but I think it just fractures that family audience a bit.
Yeah, we're losing our innocence, aren't we?
And we're going to sound as though we're dinosaurs.
Oh no,
But
I think
so
we're
be it.
entitled. Well, I'm proud to be one. I'll put my hand up.
Are you a dinosaur, are you?
Yeah, well, based on what you've told me, yes, I must be.
Good. Chris, good evening.
G'day, fellas. How
Hi,
are you?
Chris. G'day.
I listened to Neil Mitchell most of the morning at 11 o'clock when they went to that minute silence. I was struggling with a few tears, and there's probably a number of emotions catching up with me as well as the respect to those who served and those who had fallen before us, and even the ones still serving now. And it's sort of a more touching time this year than it had been at other times, because obviously coping with mental illness, I have a number of issues to attend to, but I'm more settled today, and I've got my lady friend who's men who've been involved in what is now becoming tomorrow a 6-year blind date in the making. And I'm meeting her at Melbourne Airport on the Qantas arrivals area, and hopefully she'll be in about 3:20 p.m. because there is storms predicted, so I hope they don't delay the plane or have to turn it around or anything like that, but I'll wait there as long as needed. But I'm finding an issue difficult with the Broadmeadows area, and I don't know, see, some people can find this offensive, but I actually find it offensive from the other side of the fence. The traditional owner of the land here was Pat, his name was. He had the horse riding, so he had all the area around Broadmeadows, Boxford Park, Meadow Heights, Greenvale, out the West Meadows and all that. And then the Land Acquisition Act, through the various governments, acquired land, and all the ratepayers and taxpayers, built Broadmeadows up as in the State District and the Federal City Court as it is today as we know it. And the Broadmeadows Health Service was put together by ratepayers and taxpayers and all that. And then I walked into the Northwest Area Mental Health at the Broadmeadows Health Service the other day, and it's got a Koori sign saying we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land. Well, they weren't the traditional owners of the land, but I have no problems with Koori people. But all the Anglo-Saxons, all the Koori, all the multicultural Australians put this Broadmeadows Health Service together and the land it's based on. So I think that's starting to push the issue a bit too much. And may I finish by saying I was really thankful Prince Charles was here today, our future king, the future king of Australia, of the Commonwealth of Australia, was in Australia today. But just when you thought we're having a good run and you stood in the rain with the Remembrance Day celebrations, then came the Greens Party on the news tonight saying we should change the flag. I thought, well, why couldn't they just wait till another time the year before our future king was there?
Yeah. All right, Chris, point well made. Thank you for calling tonight, and good evening. Thank you.
Well, I raised the point because the Prince is here. It was on everyone's mind. That's why.
And also the Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull's reference in the book that he wrote.
Oh, yes.
About the Prince.
Exactly, and he was head of the Republican movement.
Yes, he was.
A couple of decades ago anyway.
And I think reference to the elders and owners, I think, goes back to the traditional owners of the land, not of the people who settled it so much.
Yeah, so Chris, probably was Aboriginal people originally.
So they're going back to the ancient tribes that would have set up camp along the banks of the Yarra, or whatever this suburb it is now.
Maybe 300 years ago.
Okay, Chris, thank you for your call. 19...
Our longest-serving Lord Mayor of all time has been.
Gee, that's a good question.
Isn't it? Yes.
Gee,
John So seemed to be there a while.
John So was there for a while, as was our good mate...
Ron Walker.
Ron Walker, who did a great job.
Frank Beaurepaire, years gone by.
Yes, he was.
It's be interesting to find out who was our longest-serving ever. Apparently, he can just keep reapplying every 3 years and go another term. Indefinitely, obviously.
So Robert Doyle, I think, has done a great job.
I do too.
Don't you?
Yes, we should be proud.
I think he's put his heart and soul into that office.
Yeah, I think he was born to be Lord Mayor.
And looking for a third term, and I think he deserves it.
I think he'll get it.
I was interested to hear Catherine say there that Robert Doyle's looking for a third term so he could fix up Elizabeth Street and get rid of all the beggars. Haven't they been there the whole time that he's been in?
Yes, they have, I suppose. You're
How
right.
long have we talked about fixing up Elizabeth Street?
I know. And Swanston Street and the market.
He'll give it his best shot, I'm sure.
Well, he hasn't for the last... that's the point he's saying.
No, but he will now.
Will he? Why is now...
He'll put the head down now. This is his last chance.
Oh,
yeah, he'd probably only want to do 3 more years and then give it away. Wouldn't you imagine?
No,
might want to go into private enterprise.
Doing
perhaps.
what?
Oh, who knows? Or be an ambassador of the Vatican or something. Yes.
Oh, please.
What people
Let's
do.
fix up Elizabeth Street.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Catherine. Patricia at East Keilor.
Good evening, Bruce and Phil.
Hello, Patricia.
I'm a first-time caller, but I just wanted to let you know, today I was on the Melbourne Star Wheel at on Remembrance.
Yeah.
11 o'clock.
Did they stop that?
Yes, they did.
Goodness
And
me.
played the last post. I was very impressed.
Oh, that's
really wonderful.
Wonderful.
Isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where my experience was.
Very impressed with that.
I am too. I was probably surprised. But
Yes.
that's really wonderful.
Very lovely. Did you have grandchildren with you or friends?
No, I was with a life activities group,
right, okay.
actually. and having a wonderful view of Melbourne.
Yeah.
Good.
But they actually stopped the whole wheel for the time, and as I said, played the last post. It was just
Well,
Lovely.
that's really showing respect.
And that's
isn't it?
doing something that we asked you to ring in, an unusual location where they did pay tribute.
Yes.
yes.
Thanks,
Hold
Patricia.
on, Patricia. We'll get you a pancake parlour voucher
Oh, thank you very much.
for you to take your mates, some of your girlfriends, to the pancake parlour for morning or afternoon tea. Pancake Parlour is open 24 hours at High Point, Doncaster and Malvern East. So please don't hang up.
I won't. Thank
And
you very much for that.
Just ask you to hold on.
Thank
There
you.
we are, the wheel, the observation star.
Observation wheel. Karen at Sunshine, hi.
Hi, Mansfield.
G'day.
As much as I think it's a good idea to pay respects to those that served in the war, it didn't seem to happen in Chapel Street. I was waiting for a tram between 11:15 and 15:15. A quarter of an hour late. It didn't seem to happen in Chapel Street. Everyone was going about their own business, you know. But I was wondering if the tram might have stopped dead in its tracks if it was 15 minutes late. Maybe it stopped. I don't know. But hey, listen, what do you think of that grandmother at the Flemington races? Did you hear about how she frolicked around in the rain in her undies?
Oh, yes.
I thought that was disgusting, you know. I mean, there's such a thing as modesty, really, you know, and I think she might have been desired for publicity to get on TV to make some money.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Karen. Thank you very much. But I have been told that all trams did stop today. Perhaps not on every tram, but the majority of trams did stop to observe the minute's silence.
Yeah, that impresses me.
Ron at Fairfield. Hello, Ron.
Yes, Ron.
Yeah, Ron, yeah.
Go ahead, Ron.
That train driver that stopped today for 1 minute, he'd be in a lot of trouble.
Why?
Oh, because of this new company we got. He's supposed to run his trains on time.
Yeah.
Relating to, I got my phone bill today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you ring that 1300 number, they charge you 35 cents per call.
All right.
Yeah. And I heard Luke was on last night. This lady that rings you, Melbourne, said it's so boring she's not going to ring again.
All right. Well, that's her prerogative, yes.
That's right. So
she's
some
entitled.
reason. But the thing is, like, you're on for 2 hours, and you've got 30 minutes of commercials and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And there's not much. I think you're losing a lot of the family, you know.
Oh, well, my advice is stick to us on Nightline, Ron. That's the way to go. It's already 8 to 11, Bruce.
8 days, 3 countries.
Hello again. This is John Doremus with the Passing Parade, the story of Edward the Confessor, the king who sold out England. A pious but weak man, Edward the Confessor, as he was known, was the last and feeblest of the long line of Saxon monarchs who united England for the first time since the Roman occupation and founded a culture that rivaled any in Europe. He is remembered as a king who betrayed his heritage. And I'll be back after this message.
I think I can. I think I can. I know I can. I know I can. With my intent, I know I can. I know I can. With my intent, I know I can. I know I can. With my intent, I know I can. I know I can. With my intent, I know I can.
Edward the Confessor was born in about the year 1004, the son of King Ethelred, known as the Unready, and Emma of Normandy, and aunt of the man who was to be called William the Conqueror. In 1013, the reckless Ethelred was driven from his throne by the Danes. And for the next 30 years, England was ruled by the Danish monarchs Sven, Canute, and Hardicanute, while the royal Saxon family found refuge in Normandy. Reared at the court of the Norman dukes, Edward grew up Norman in speech and sympathies, a disastrous portent for the future of England. He was in his late 30s when he was called to succeed Hardicanute, who had no direct heir on the throne. By then, the real rule of England had fallen into the hands of 3 earls, the most powerful of whom was Godwin of Wessex. In return for Godwin's support, Edward married his daughter Edith. Edward's Norman sympathies heralded the coming storm. He filled his court with Norman nobles and installed them in the highest offices, thus fostering a fierce resentment among the Saxons. The explosion came with the death in 1051 of the Archbishop of Canterbury, when a kinsman of the powerful Godwin was passed over in favor of a Norman abbot, Robert of Jamugus, and installed as archbishop by King Edward. Burning with fury at the affront, Godwin and his sons levied troops from their earldoms and brought the country to the brink of civil war. In April 1053, Godwin died of fever and was succeeded by his eldest son Harold as Earl of Wessex, but Robert of Jamugus, and installed as archbishop by King Edward. Burning with fury at the affront, Godwin and his sons levied troops from their earldoms and brought the country to the brink of civil war. In April 1053, Godwin died of fever and was succeeded by his eldest son Harold as Earl of Wessex. Harold had bigger things in mind, however. King Edward, who refused to cohabit with his wife, had no children, and the problem of the royal succession brought the threat of renewed turmoils. Edward's legal heir was a young nephew who would live for years in Hungary. But the king had secretly determined that his kinsman, William, Duke of Normandy, should follow him on the throne. Rumors to this effect spurred Harold into action. The Saxons rallied to his cause, and when Edward died on January 5th, 1066, they immediately hailed him as their king. Duke William of Normandy, armed with a papal benediction and swearing that both Edward and Harold had once agreed to his succession, mustered his feudal army of Norman knights and set sail for England. They landed on the Sussex coast above the little port of Hastings, and in October of 1066 were met in battle by King Harold's Saxon forces. The Saxons were no match for the mailed Norman knights who rode them down and left Harold dead on the field of Hastings with an arrow in his brain. Thus did Saxon England perish and give way to the Norman rule of William the Conqueror, whose way was paved by the weakness and alien sympathies of Edward the Confessor. What could have been an era of peace and prosperity, a new golden age for Saxon England, turned otherwise. Our time is up till we meet again for another chapter in the Passing Parade. This is John Doremus. As always, thank you so much, and goodbye for now.
Okay, good night and thanks. Good evening, 3AW Wangaratta. And 2Q and Dilliliquin taking Nightline for the rest of today. As we say good night to Remembrance Day. And my closing piece tonight around 5 to 12 is the history of the last post, which I hadn't read before, but quite a beautiful piece.
Yes, it's something very special. And if you have memories of what you were doing 12 hours ago, were you caught in a compromising position when you wanted to pause and reflect? Where were you?
Where could you be? What sort of position would you be in?
Well, I'm waiting to hear.
Standing on your head, perhaps.
Where were you at? Perhaps you're in Cirque du Soleil. You might have been rehearsing at the time. Who knows?
All right.
Lorraine's been waiting for us, Bruce. Hello, Lorraine.
Hello, how are you, boys?
Yeah, good.
How are you feeling, Bruce?
Yes, good, thanks.
Oh, that's good. I was just saying before, are we supposed to be dumb and stupid here in Australia?
Why?
Well, we must be, because Charles went to sleep during the service today.
I wasn't aware of that.
Well, if you can get it, and it's on, and it's raining quite hard, and you can see the different ones going down with their wreaths. He'd already laid his wreath with Camilla and Costa, what do you call it?
The Prime Minister, yeah.
Yeah, and they'd gone back to their seat. He was sitting there, and it was raining quite heavy. You could see the rain coming down, and he sort of shaked himself, and then he sort of put his head, was supposed to be looking and listening to them saying so and so and so and so, and they're taking their wreaths, placing them. Charles closed his eyes, and it was closed for a few seconds, maybe a minute or so, and all of a sudden sort of jumped. Woke himself up and looked around as much as did anybody see that? And I know that it's the same reaction as what my mother did, and quite a lot of people do. You know, you go to sleep, then you wake up suddenly, something like that. He did it 3 times. And then all of a sudden, she must have seen it, and she nudged him, and he sort of gave her a growly look and turned away and looked over at somebody over the other side.
Oh.
Yeah, it was all in a matter of about 2 minutes.
Yes.
But it was just, I just thought to myself, I wonder if anybody saw it.
Ah, well, you did.
And I thought, gee, we must be bloody dumb and stupid here.
Yes. No, well, you noticed that. All right, Lorraine, thank you so much. And I suppose with a bit of jet lag there and maybe the odd prayer of which he would reflect for that silent reflection.
Well, exactly.
Maybe he did doze off.
Or perhaps he was contemplating. We'll never know.
How did Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall look good after a long flight? It's immaculate, the suit that he's in and the dress that she's wearing and the hat. Do they change from pyjamas or underpants in the plane?
I guess they do.
There's a hairstylist on board, perhaps?
Probably a bed on board.
Maybe the ironing of a pair of pants in first class.
Yeah, yes.
What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they're sitting in those clothes for the whole flight, no.
Because they look immaculate. He looked absolutely wonderful in this suit.
Yes. Well, they'd have their own sort of ladies in waiting and guys to take care of them.
Would they?
Oh, yes. Tailors and
I suppose they would on board, wouldn't they?
I think so, yes.
Neil at Watsonia. Hello, Neil.
Hello.
Yes.
On a totally different subject, my daughter-in-law has got a new doggy that's tearing everything to bits, and I want to know what the name of that thing that you have got that's helping him to probably take his attention.
Yes, they're called the Kong Jumbler, and they come in the shape of a ball or a football, and they're toys. They're called Kong.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you like some?
Well, I'd like one anyway, yes.
All right, we'll send out some Kong products for you, the ball or the football.
Oh, thank you.
They're a 2-in-1 ball toy for twice the interaction and fun that the dog will get out of it.
Yeah.
And he will be gnawing away with that all day and completely, lost in his concentration.
Good for their teeth too, Neil.
Well, they've got some chooks and he's chasing them too.
Well, he better shut up about that and stick the Kong in his mouth. All right. So just don't hang up. Hold on, Neil.
Thank you.
People ask where can you buy Kong from good pet retailers or get more information from kongcompany.com.
Yeah, Kong is the name of the product, and they have the toys, the footballs, the balls, or the different varieties of which there's something in it, and they gnaw away and keep themselves occupied. No more rooting up the garden.
You're right, made of rubber, and they float too, most of these toys.
Yeah. Right, O'Neill, thanks. Hold the line if you would. Tabitha, good evening.
Hi, boys. How are you?
Yeah, what's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to talk about today's Remembrance celebrations as well.
Yeah.
I had my little girl, she's nearly 4, and I'm trying to, teach her the Australian way because I had a pop who went off to the war, and we laid him to rest today, 25 years ago. So today's a very special day in our family.
Oh, yes, it would be.
Yes. And I was quite disappointed because I sat down and Channel 10 was on, so we done the minute silence. It was a little, testy with the little one. But at the end of it, they didn't play the last post. They chopped it straight off and went back to the television show. And I thought that was very disrespectful, and it really upset me to the point that I rang Channel 10 and told them that I couldn't believe they didn't play the last post because, it's a day to remember the soldiers, and I believe that the kids should know about that. And I look forward to midnight when you tell the story about the story of the last post.
Yes.
I've never heard it myself.
Yeah, thank you. I think you'll love it. And the last post is so synonymous with today, isn't it? Because of the end of the First World War and the battles on the Western Front in France.
Well, absolutely. Yes, it did show some disrespect, I believe, Tabitha.
Yes. Thank you for calling, Tabitha. It's an amazing plot of land. Well, it's more than a plot of land. That Western Front in France.
Yes.
Where that little school at Villeneuve.
That's right. You've been there twice, I think.
Absolutely. It takes your breath away.
I'd like to get there in my lifetime.
You stand there on a silent spring summer day, just looking across the meadows, as silent and as peaceful as it would have been tumultuous during that war.
Yes.
Where the Allies fought.
There's an Aussie flag flying over the school too, I
believe. There's a little Aussie flag, and it's amazing. This little village, Villeneuve, with Swanston Street and Burke Street and Elizabeth Street, all saluting Melbourne and Victoria.
How wonderful.
Because we as a state got behind raising a lot of funds to rebuild the little school.
Yeah.
And every Monday when they salute the flag, they salute the Australian flag.
Oh, that was
in memory of what Victoria did for them.
almost 100 years ago.
Quarter past. 19 past. Margaret down at Rye.
Oh, hello, boys. Lovely to speak to you.
Thank you.
Two little things about today, if I may. One, our little grandson, who's 4, goes to kinder in Sorrento, and they must have been talking about Remembrance Day, and they all made little poppies, and then they marched them all up the main street of Sorrento, and to the epitaph there, and it was quite a big ceremony. You know, the president of Rotary laid a wreath, and there were the school children. Everyone was there, and it was quite a little ceremony. And afterwards, he said, "Nana, we went to see the soldiers."
Oh.
I thought that was just beautiful. You know, he couldn't understand exactly what was going on, but he knew that it was something to do with the soldiers
Yes.
and the war, and I just thought that was beautiful.
Darling.
And the other thing, would you let me read a poem about the Anzacs?
Yeah, it'd be lovely. It'd be lovely.
All right. The first pale rays of the morning sun shone down upon them one by one. As they reached that foreign shore, a fighting force prepared for war. Up the rocky cliffs they ran, brave and fearless to a man, whilst cannon blasted all around, on they went with honour bound. Over the trenches wide and deep, each one taking a giant leap, to meet the enemy face to face. Their mission was to take that space. The battle raged for days on end, but spirit strong they would not bend. Their comrades fell on that giant hell, and few were left their tale to tell. So we remember you this day, as all together we kneel and pray for those who fought for freedom.
Oh, lovely.
Very appropriate. Thank you, Margaret.
No, nice words there, Margaret. Thank you very much.
100 years, you know, since the Anzacs, and of course we've had all the other wars in between.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks for your account of today with the little grandson and those lovely words.
Thank you.
All right, Margaret, thank you.
It just hit the right note, didn't it?
Yes, it did. It was very appropriate, very much so. Don't forget the last post, about 5 to 12 tonight.
Yes.
Queenie, good evening.
Good evening, boys, and lovely to speak to you tonight. My remembrance thing was a bit of a surprise. I was scrolling down my Facebook, and up come a photo of Henry in his uniform, and up in the corner said, "Henry Pierce, Pam Quicklinski, this is my dad, lest we forget." I felt so, it sort of hit home, because I had got this photo. I'd given it to Pam a long time ago, and he was about 29 when the photo was taken. And just after we were married, I would say about 2 years, and he'd come home on leave, and then he went back again. Pam wasn't even thought of or born then, but I thought it was lovely of her to do that. What do you think,
Oh,
boys?
yes, a lovely thought, and for you to discover it out of the blue like that.
I did discover it out of the blue, and I was so surprised to see it up there.
Of course you would.
Yes. Okay, boys.
No, that's beautiful.
Yes, I'm looking forward to hearing the last post too,
Yes.
Bruce.
All right, love. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Queenie.
Lovely story. Bye.
Good night. Certainly a day of reflection in many ways, both of husbands and fathers and loved ones and even perhaps strangers that you'd never met. They all come flooding back, those memories.
A lovely gesture on Pam's part for you, Queenie.
23.
Now, boys, I know it's Remembrance Day today, a very important day in this country, of course, but it's also the anniversary of another very important event in this country's history, and we couldn't let the day go past on the 40th anniversary, boys, without playing this.
Well, may we say, God save the Queen. Because nothing will save the Governor-General.
third time in as many years, Australians will be going to the polls to elect a national government. Why? Because for the second time in as many years, the federal parliament has collapsed in chaos. In the most tumultuous day in Australian political history, the Prime Minister has been sacked, the opposition leader has been asked to form a caretaker government, and both houses of Parliament have been dissolved. Both Labor and Liberal members and planners are burning the midnight oil tonight, trying to make sense out of today's events. That won't be easy, because the transfer of power was accompanied by a counter-move by Mr. Whitlam to retain power. The situation is being further complicated by union unrest and political protest. All right, good. Well, now, that was me with a velvet curtain around my neck, which was the fashion. That was the tie of the era.
That's right.
And a suit, which was fawn in colour, which you would never wear in a blue fit, with the sharpest of lapels.
And very long sideburns.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I shouldn't dismiss that, because it was an important news item.
That was trendy. And glasses that I don't think you needed. You had them as a prop, I think.
No, I may have needed them. How dare you say that?
Well, you normally don't wear them for reading 40 years later.
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay.
You don't know that.
No.
Very
I
presumptuous.
thought it was just being affectation.
Very presumptuous well, I could have had a false nose on.
I thought you...
You know, where do I stop?
To try to look like John Bailey.
No, nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. So that was the dismissal all those years. How many years? 40? Is it 40?
40 years ago today.
40 years.
And the day on which Ned Kelly was hanged too,
And,
as you'd be aware.
that was the dismissal, and we remember that every year, don't we?
And as you say, 40 years ago, and now for the first time in my lifetime, neither of those two main players are with us.
Yes.
Mr. Fraser and Mr. Whitlam now both gone.
Yes, very good. Well, not a good point, but a salient point to make.
As to as the Governor-General, of course.
Yeah, but
So
the two leaders, which played the important part.
Yeah, but he was very much a part of it, wasn't he?
Well, the two leaders have, which made the news. Tomorrow's weather: a low of 15 degrees overnight is the forecast. Showers tomorrow with a possible thunderstorm, and a top of 23 degrees.
All right, I can live with that.
Yeah, well, you'll have to. Rob, good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Yes, Rob.
And Bruce, your hair was brown.
Yes.
Yep, and a little bit longer.
Yes, it was.
Yes. How are those grandkids of yours?
Beautiful, thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna say good night to my grandkids for once.
Good.
Good night, Alicia, Katie, Chase, and Abby May.
How lovely! They're gorgeous names.
Yeah. Anyway, as you were saying about my grandfather on my father's side fought in the First World War. My grandfather on my mother's side, he was a little bit too old in the Second World War, but he had arrived in New Zealand and he enlisted to help with munitions and transports within New Zealand, which he did up until almost to the end of the war. So both served armies. We, our dog walking group this morning, after our off-lead dog walking group, we go to the Cardinia Cultural Centre for a cup of coffee afterwards, and I took along our digital radio, and we sat and had coffee with the dog sitting around outside, and then at about 2 minutes to 11 I set the radio up, only to find I couldn't get a digital signal. So I had to quickly try and find a station that would play it, which ended up being the ABC Classic, and we got the signal, and they were doing the minute silent. And then they only played half of the last call. They only went for half of it, and then they went back to classical music. We were quite disappointed.
Yes, you would be, yes.
Yep, and I believe some of our drivers did stop this morning for a minute's respect. Not all drivers, but some drivers did stop to provide a minute's respect. So some tram drivers did it. But yes, it was a day to reflect on my grandparents.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'll leave you guys to it.
All right. Well, at least you
Okay.
did the right thing, Rob, and took the radio along and tried to make some sort of contact with the station.
Yeah, give it some atmosphere. Well done, Rob.
Okay, Rob, thanks a lot. Mari at Carrum.
Hi, boys. I've got a TV question, and I've got also my memories of my father was in the First World War, and he died in 1956. and he would be 120 if he was alive now. He was
Right.
a stretcher bearer.
Yes.
And when he died in 1956, it was 2 weeks exactly before the Remembrance service. So I was picked to go to the shrine, and Sir William Slim was the governor.
Oh, yes, he was.
And I had to put a wreath on the shrine, and it meant a lot to me to be able to do that.
Yes.
Then, in 1969, I went on an overland trip to London, and we stopped in Gallipoli, and we went to and in those days, Gallipoli Cove was no touristy. We camped on the beach.
Oh, you would.
And we got in the caves, we got in everything that no one, because you could do it.
Oh, of course, yes.
And it had brought real memories, and I've actually got a poppy I brought back from there, and I've still got it to this day.
A puppy?
A puppy.
A poppy.
Oh, a poppy.
Yeah.
Oh, not a puppy, no. And it was wonderful, so I've got really, and then my father in the next war, he was an air warden. And now, so I have lots of memories, and I had a special service today where I was staying with some friends in a retirement village, and that was lovely.
Good.
Now, I want to know, I was watching tonight Inspector Lindley, and I wonder whether my friend was with me watching it. We both dropped off to sleep and missed the end of it.
Oh,
And I wonder if someone could tell us who did the murder.
easy thing to do, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wonder if some listener could tell me who did the murder. I'd like to know.
All right. Stay tuned.
And, as I said, it was it's always a special day to me.
Yes.
Dad died the 29th of October 1956, and, it's 59 years, it'll be 60 years since he died next year. And I was 14 when he died, so I still remember. He never talked about the war or anything, really. About twice I got something out of him, and that was all.
Yeah, they didn't.
We
Did
got
they?
his war diary and we got postcards.
They didn't open up terribly much, did they?
No, and he came from Tasmania, and he enlisted where Cadbury's Dairy Milk Factory is.
Oh, right.
In Claremont, yes.
Yeah, and that's where they left from before Cadbury's Dairy Milk was there. And I gave his medals and his certificate and everything, because he got one signed by King George V.
Now, Mari.
Yes?
Queenie's got the answer to how that series ended up. Are you there, Queenie?
Yes, Bruce. I picked that up straight away because I was watching that, and who do you think, Murray, it was?
I haven't a clue what was that.
Well, it was the lovely policeman that was after the young policewoman.
Oh, no! He did it.
Yes, it was a very... I thought at the end when he was getting very close to her that it was him that did it. They found out it was his writing on the back of a thing that matched up the girl's photo, on the back of her photo. It was his writing.
Oh.
And that was the clue that gave it to them.
Oh, well, thank you very much. It's good to know, because it's awful not knowing when you wake up
when you fall asleep.
No.
Yes, I hate that. Anyway, Murray, there's the answer for you. Okay, boys, thank you for doing that.
Queenie.
Thank you, boys.
Yes, love.
Queenie, thank you so much. That's very kind. Mari.
Yes?
Got a little gift for you, the Hamper World Christmas hamper.
I've had one. I was getting one. It's supposed to be coming.
Oh,
all
right, we'll leave it at that. Okay, thanks for calling. 24 to 12, Denise at Heathmont.
Oh, good evening, Bruce and Phil.
Hi.
Look, I've got a few things to say about war. Wouldn't it be wonderful if there was no war at all?
Of course. Yes.
Why can't we come to compromises?
Yeah.
There are so many people that disagree in their own homes and in everywhere they go. And this is the start of wars. It starts from something small. Religion starts it. But I'm telling you, the toughest men are the war men, apart from the ones that are disabled and are very ill. The toughest men are the war men, because they have got the guts to do what they do. And if everybody went home and listened to the song by Gene Pitney, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, it would explain this.
Yeah.
And as far as Barry's concerned, that rang up about the trains, up for the red rattlers that were run by the government instead of the Chinese.
Yeah, good point, Denise.
All right,
Don't know
Denise.
where the Gene Pitney song fits into World
The
War
Chinese
One.
came into it either. I'm not sure about where any of that is.
And earlier tonight we mentioned the Athenaeum Theatre, the oldest in Melbourne, is 175 tomorrow. What are your memories of going to the Athenaeum over the years?
Norma at Briar Hill. G'day, Norma.
Hi, Bruce and Phil.
Yes, Norma.
And now, first up, can I thank Queenie for the parcel I received today? That was very thoughtful of you, Queenie. And today I went to see my brother in the lovely Chatsworth Terrace nursing home in Eltham. Ray, my brother, is failing, you know, with his health. And I was in there about 11 o'clock. And he said, what day is it today? I said, it's the 11th of November, Remembrance Day. So he was in the army and my husband was in the army. So he had a few memories about it.
Yes, he would.
Sat there quietly and, oh, look, you know, they're talking about the young girls doing that sport, sparring.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, look, I think that is dreadful for young women. I don't think it's very ladylike.
No, I don't think so, no.
I don't think I'd like to take children to see that.
No.
And Phil, I'd love to hear from you.
Yes, Norma. Well, you know, this is the best opportunity rather than by letter these days.
Oh, okay. I used to love getting a letter.
Yeah, and on doctor's orders, I've slowed down a bit with all that.
Okay, Norma, thank you for that. Doris, good evening.
Oh, good evening. This is a few words. I wrote this in 2010. Duty paid. They left this land under given command. They left this land with gun in hand. They were forced to comply with orders from men on high. As our hearts filled with fear, from our eyes gently seeped a tear. We often stop to question why our young men were not born to die. Their life in future is never the same. The path they trod, their thoughts retain. Bodies may be torn and shattered. Dreams are lost, forgot they mattered. We ask a question why this was their lot. In history, their deeds are not forgot. Family and friends suffered in silence as each young soldier was faced with violence. Wishing once again to feel the touch of ones they loved and cherished so much. So once again, men on high, don't send our young boys out to die.
Oh, you're very telling, Doris. Thank you so much for sharing that.
12:15, Enid, good evening.
Hi, fellas. I'm much brighter tonight than last
Oh,
Yes, you are.
That's good news.
night. Yes, I got over last night, upset over the park.
Yes, of course.
But anyhow, I listened to 3AW this morning. My gosh, I've got to say congratulations to 3AW this morning for their memorial service.
Oh, good.
At 11 o'clock, if you couldn't get to anywhere
Yes.
else, you had to feel the peace and calm of
Yes.
that message and the silence for that 1 minute.
Yes, you're so right. I heard the same. It was wonderful.
It was absolutely wonderful. And I mean, I've been one that's complained about all the times of changes and everything else. But for this, congratulations.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Okay?
Thank you very much for that.
No worries.
Thank you so much, Enid. Thomas of Langwarren.
Yes, hello, Bruce and Phil.
Yes, Thomas.
I'd like to tell the story of my father who was in the 13th Light Horse towards the end of the war. He loved to play piano, accordion for the boys when they'd get a break, and he'd go in the trenches and play a little tune. But on this final day of the war, all of a sudden, the opposition soldiers rush towards the trenches with their hands in the air and saying, "We can't stand that person in the trench playing on the road to Gundagai. We surrender." And that was the end of the war.
Isn't that amazing? What a great story. We're pressed for time, Thomas, but I'm going to give you a Hamper World Christmas hamper valued at $100 with all of the wonderful goodies for Christmas in it for you.
Thank you very much.
It's a gift hamper which you can order from hamperworld.com.au. Right, Phil?
Congratulations, Thomas.
Thank you very much.
So-
And, a wonderful show, and congratulations on your position on radio.
Thank you very much. And a lovely call to end the night. Don't hang up, Thomas.
When a loved one...
If any of you have ever been to a military funeral in which the last post was played, this brings out a new meaning of it. Here's something everyone should know. Until I read this, I didn't know. We've all heard the haunting song, The Last Post. It's a song that gives us a lump in our throats and usually tears in our eyes. But did you know the story behind the song? If not, I think you'll be interested to find out about its humble beginnings. Reportedly, it began in 1862 during the American Civil War when Union Army Captain Robert Ellicombe was with his men near Harrison's Landing in Virginia. The Confederate Army was on the other side of the narrow strip of land. During the night, Captain Ellicombe heard the moans of a soldier who lay severely wounded on the field. Not knowing if it was a Union or Confederate soldier, the captain decided to risk his life and bring the stricken man back for medical attention. Crawling on his stomach through the gunfire, the captain reached the stricken soldier and began pulling him toward his encampment. When the captain finally reached his own lines, he discovered it was actually a Confederate soldier, but the soldier was dead. The captain lit a lantern and suddenly caught his breath and went numb with shock. In the dim light, he saw the face of the soldier. It was his own son. The boy had been studying music in the South when the war broke out, and without telling his father, the boy enlisted in the Confederate Army. The following morning, heartbroken, the father asked permission of his superiors to give his son a full military burial, despite his enemy status. His request was partially granted. The captain asked if he could have a group of army band leaders play a funeral dirge for his son at the funeral. The request was turned down since the soldier was a Confederate. But out of respect of the father, they did say they could give him only one musician. The captain chose a bugler. He asked the bugler to play a series of musical notes he had found on a piece of paper in the pocket of the dead youth's uniform, and this wish was granted. The haunting melody we know now as The Last Post, used at funerals and military funerals, was born. And the words are, "Day is done, gone the sun, from the lakes, from the hills, from the sky, all is well, safely rest, God is nigh. Fading light dims the sight, and a star gems the sky, gleaming bright. From afar, dawning nigh, falls the night. Thanks and praise for our days, neath the sun, neath the stars, neath the sky as we go, this we know, God is nigh." I too have felt the chills while listening to The Last Post, but I've never seen all those words and the song until now. I didn't even know there was more than one verse. I also didn't know the story behind the song, and I didn't know if you had known of it either, so I thought I'd read it. I now have a deeper respect for the song than I did before, and remember those lost and harmed while serving their country. Also remember those who have served and returned, and for those presently serving in the armed forces. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
lest we forget.
Well, the night has almost left us and a brand new day is about to dawn. Thank you for staying up with us on Nightline tonight. I hope you liked that last post and our tribute to the piece, the musical piece, and the day itself.
It's very touching. Wow.
The last minutes are ticking by. Luke Bono will be here after midnight to see the sun dawn across Australia as Australia overnight takes to the air.
Thanks for your company tonight, and thank you, Ken.
And we're back tomorrow night at 10 for another edition of Nightline. Thank you indeed for your company, and good night, Samuel, Carter and Amelia, and little Emily, Charlotte, sweet Ella Grace, little William Oliver, and Sophia Grace. I'm Bruce Mansfield.
And I'm still Flipper. See you tomorrow night.
Will you be there tomorrow as the same character?
I'll be here. But don't stand on my blowhole, please. We dolphins need space.
I'm sorry, I tend to often do that because it's so wizened and small that I don't notice it that often unless you blow off. And I think occasionally if you did that more, we'd all appreciate it so much.
Well, I think I'll have to sink deeper in the water to escape you.
All right, you do whatever you want to. If you're not too deep, I'll send a brick down there. And that's the way she went today.